Aasma Khan is a single parent of two beautiful children, Rayan, age 3, and Noor, age 15 months. Aasma always wanted to be a mother, but just because she wasn't married, that wasn't going to stop her from fulfilling her dream. With this in mind, Aasma decided to adopt from Pakistan via the Edhi Foundation. The Edhi Foundation is run by Bilqis Edhi, carrying on the legacy that her late husband had been doing since 1951, helping the less fortunate, the sick and the needy in Pakistan, running the largest volunteer ambulance network in the world and never expecting anything in return. My bond with Aasma is special, especially as she's on the board of my charity, the ZB Foundation. So it gives me great pleasure to chat to my good friend and mother of two, Aasma Khan. Welcome, Aasma. I'm so pleased to have you.
I'm so happy to be here, Danny.
Listen, you have been on such a long road. You've shown such perseverance and strength that I honestly have respected so much because I know how difficult this journey is. Can you please share how all this came about, how you even thought of adoption, and can you take us back to the beginning?
Well, actually, for me, it was a long time ago. I actually first was introduced to the concept through the Quran itself, which says, take care of the orphans. So I always had this concept in my head that at some point in my life, I was going to adopt and take care of orphans. And it was through that process I was exploring, and many countries only allow married couples to adopt. Many have age limits. So there are a lot of barriers for international adoption. And amazingly, at the time when I started to actively pursue adoption, I kept getting pointed towards Pakistan, but every time I asked, they said, oh, only married couples. But Mrs. Edhi, being this amazingly forward thinker, started allowing single women to adopt if they met her criteria. And luckily, she chose me.
Oh my God, I mean, this woman, I met her last year, and just sitting with Mrs. Edhi, she brought me to tears. She has such a powerful presence, but you were so lucky to spend quite a lot of time with her, and obviously you could communicate.
Yes, well,
How is that?
I'm lucky I'm fluent in Urdu as a second language, and I had the opportunity to sit with her at the 2 times. One was when I was first interviewed, and that only lasted 10 minutes, and I thought it went horribly. And then later that same day was when they called me for my son. So she just wanted to see me once in person to really get a feel. And then I got the call for my son, and I went to see her, and at that time I got to spend 2 hours with her.
I get emotional just thinking of it because it's such a, I think only when you adopt a child do you know how powerful that is and how it plays on every emotion in your body.
Absolutely. I think, when I'm going to tear up and get emotional, but when I first laid eyes on Rayan, it was just...
All your dreams come true, right? Your prayers have been answered.
The earth shifts.
It really does, because, and I've always said, I think our children pick us, and you have 2 beautiful children, Rayan and Noor, and they're yours. There's no... It's funny because people say, do you believe in nurture or nature? It's nurture, 100%. Your 2 children are mini you.
Honestly, I think that part of that is the blessing of how Mrs. Edhi chooses and matches children, because she's been doing it for 30 years. Yeah. And she actually took me through her album of the adopted families, sent her photographs over the years, as I am now doing with my children, sending her photographs of me and my kids.
Can you explain how you got it, how it all happened?
I'll try and keep it as short as possible because the adoption process is very lengthy. But normally, Mrs. Edhi requires that you have completed your in-country requirements before you approach her when you're coming from either the US or UK. Because I was coming from Dubai and I had my national identity card for overseas Pakistanis in hand, Mrs. Edhi accepted my application through that. So she didn't ask me for my US home study or anything. She just said, since you're living in Dubai and it's Dubai that has to approve keeping the residency with the children, you can proceed. And so I proceeded with my application, And it took me, I think, a month and a half to 2 months to get the verbal approval for my application. And then I was very lucky again. They negotiated with me because I was working full time. I told them and explained to them my situation. I need to come to the country with a program and an exit because I have to get back. So we agreed a time of arrival, and I was so lucky with Rayan that I arrived, I believe, on the 28th or 29th of January, and on the 2nd of February, Rayan was in my arms.
I mean, that's kind of unheard of, right?
It
that
is-
quick.
It is unusual because I applied in October and I had a baby in my hands by the following February. A lot of that is also about how Mrs. Edhi connects to your story, your personal story, your journey, your commitment, your perseverance, your ability to face adversity. Because raising somebody else's gift to you, she takes it very seriously.
And so she should.
And she chooses the parents who are going to show that grit and perseverance emotionally to stand up to what her and her staff are taking you through in a process to see, are you really committed to having this child? Because in the same way that a mother has to carry a child for 9 months, she's got to be committed. So Mrs. Edhi looks for that same commitment. Are you committed to having this child? Are you going to struggle? Are you going to do what it takes? And her staff are also trained to look for that.
Yeah, they're amazing. And I think she's 100% right, because people do go into it and they say they want to adopt a child, but they don't really understand. It could also be they don't have the support network around them. People's minds change. And I'm really pleased she has this rule, because I know for me, like you, I've always wanted to adopt. And my thought process had never changed. What I found the most difficult part about adopting was the time frame. It hurt me.
Yeah.
I wasn't strong enough for that. I've been through a lot in my life since being a mother, but the impatience was my hardest. And waiting for a call to say my baby had been born was just heart-wrenching, because I just kept saying, why? There's so many abandoned. Why am I having to wait? All I want to do is love this child, please.
I
But
think
now I know.
Yeah, I think though, when you get your child,
You know exactly why you waited.
you know that waiting was because the heavens had to send you your own little angel. And it's the hardest thing you do. You're right, because that struggle, that am I going to get chosen? Will I ever have this baby? But once they're in your arms, it's like everything you did to get there washes away.
Absolutely.
It does. It just washes away. And you just remember the joy.
That's so true. And we're very lucky. We're very lucky.
I'm very lucky. I mean, would you like me to tell you about Noor?
Absolutely.
Because with Noor, you know, Rayan was 5 months old when I put in the application to Mrs. Edhi. And normally she doesn't take an application for a second child until after your first child has completed 2 years.
Oh, really? 2 years?
yeah,
It's because she wants to ensure that the child is receiving proper bonding and time and development. And I was very insistent with Mrs. Edhi that she take my application, even if she wasn't approving my application.
like a lawyer.
Smart. I was going to
being
say.
very technical.
That's so you.
And I convinced them, because I said, listen, I'm leaving Pakistan. I'm taking Rayan to Dubai. Please take my application. Just hang on to it. So then I used to manufacture reasons to call them and say hi and talk to them and keep myself at the top of mind. And they were always highly suspicious of me calling. I'd be like, I'm calling to wish you Eid Mubarak.
You're so smart.
I'm calling to say it's Rayan's first step. I'm calling to, you know, to just keep them up to, he's crawling.
And they appreciate that. You have to keep in touch with them. You have to stay in the forefront of their minds.
They do, and that's part of the process, is staying in the forefront of their mind. So as I was approaching the time in my head when I thought I should be going to Pakistan to have Noor, I started talking to them, you know, I really need to tell my boss if something's going to happen, because I have to plan. And you guys haven't approved my application, so do you know if I'm going to get an approval? And slowly I warmed them up. So by the time Rayan was actually happened very fast, because Rayan was 18 months, and by 20 months we were in Pakistan, and by the time Rayan was 22 months, we had Noor. And so yes, my journey is extraordinary, also because Mrs. Edhi gave me my number 2 before my first was 2.
But you also had that relationship with her, and I think kudos to you, because you've took the time to invest in chatting to her as well and being with her, because everybody wants time with Mrs. Edhi.
Absolutely.
It's not an easy, opportunity to get. And when I met her, I mean, I was a blubbering mess. All my emotions came out, and we couldn't even communicate verbally. We just hugged, and I touched, and she must have thought, this crazy woman. but at least you could actually hold a conversation with her, and I think I'm very lucky. Good for you.
So it's an extraordinary journey, and I do think that connection, even if it's just in the moment, is meaningful, because Mrs. Edhi connects to your soul. She's not looking for money. She's not looking for recognition. She's not looking for anything but the best home for that child.
Absolutely.
And that is amazing. And she is incredible.
She really is. So now tell me, it's not easy being mummy, daddy, juggling a career. How do you do it? What's your support system like here?
So I have some very, very dear friends who, because, when you're in Dubai and you're an expat, you don't have the same family system of support. But I have some very dear friends here who are like my go-to mommy coaches and my go-to helpers, even for, I'm not sure what to do, Noor is coughing like this, or Rayan is itching like that. And it's so nice to be able to go to experienced moms and they tell you, listen, you really don't need to worry about this.
It's fine.
Absolutely. And that has been priceless as part of my journey, is having experienced moms sort of just, lay down the path and say, this is not the exit to panic and go crazy.
Yeah, I get that.
But at the same time, it's been tough, and I consider myself blessed and grateful that I'm able to afford some support inside the house with a nanny to help me. And I'm also lucky that in my job, I've been able to keep a crib directly in my office, and my son came to work with me, and my daughter came to work with me, and both of them have grown up listening to conference calls and negotiations. And
first words like buy, sell, do this. They are such entrepreneurs from such a strong young age.
My son says, are we going to the office to review documents?
See? And he's 3. That's too funny. See, you're doing a great job. I know it's not been easy, but what has been your biggest challenge being a single parent to 2 children?
I think for me, the biggest worry and the biggest challenge is the fact that I don't have any medical history for both of my children, and I'm always worried about making the right decision in their care. And not having any medical history is really, really difficult, because when doctors ask questions and they're like, so do you have a history of this in your family? Is this common? And my answer is always, I don't know. I don't know the answer to this. I don't know how we will resolve. Right now I'm in the process of testing Noor for nuts, and every day I'm a little bit panicked because, every time I take a nut and touch it to her skin, I'm like,
It took 5 years for a nut with Amara. I never gave a nut because I thought nut allergy, this is
okay, now you make me sound like a wild woman. I started at 1.
No, better. I was just like, this is crazy. I'm not doing it. But the one good thing is, at least both your kids had their heel prick tests in Pakistan. At least they got that. So we have given them the best start in life, as we can for an adopted child, not having a medical history.
Absolutely.
Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you, so Amara, my daughter's 6, she's a lot older than yours, and she now understands where she came from. I really implanted it in her from a very young age that she was from mummy's heart, not mummy's tummy. And I know we've had this conversation a few times. Have you started explaining to both of yours?
I have.
And how?
actually with your guidance.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was your guidance. It affected me so much because I thought, that is the most beautiful way to start the dialogue. So even when Rayan was just toddling around, starting to walk, I would show him, here's mommy's heart. This is where Rayan came from. So first I just used to show him, then I would say, where did Rayan come from? And then he would come and touch my heart and say, he's come from here. So now I also am teaching this to Noor. And I figured this is the beginning of the dialogue, because the day they realize everybody else came from a tummy and I came from my mommy's heart, it will open the questions.
But they feel special. So Amara thinks she's the most special girl in the world because she's come from another mummy's tummy. She says, I have one mummy in Pakistan who I will never see because she was too poor. She gave her to a mummy that will love me. And I'm from this mummy's heart, which makes me the most special girl. And when you hear your child say that, I feel like she's going to be okay.
Inshallah.
She's
yeah.
gonna be okay. And the same with yours, for sure. Do you ever use the word adoption when you talk to them?
Well, right now, my son is 3 and my daughter is 1, but I mention it freely in front of them.
You say the word adoption?
I say the word adoption. I say my children are adopted. If people ask me the question, I'm forthright with the answer. So they're hearing the word around them as they're growing up. I want it to be a natural dialogue for them. This is not a secret. This is an open dialogue between me and them as a mother to her son, as a mother to her daughter, to discuss how they came into the world. Every child wants to know, how did I get here?
Absolutely.
When heaven sent me down, where did I come from? Where am I going? That journey is fundamental to every human being's
Absolutely.
position. Why am I here? What am I doing on earth? Everyone asks this question.
Absolutely.
Adopted children just have a slightly different story to how they got there.
That's so well put. That's so well put. Have you started seeing any of your mannerisms from the children? Because they start to act like us and start to look like us. Can you see that?
What's really interesting is that there have been several times where Rayan has actually done mannerisms of my father.
No.
And my father passed away 8 years ago. And I don't see those mannerisms in myself personally. I mean, because we don't see a mirror all the time. But he has this thing where he takes his fingers like this, which my dad used to do. And he takes his fingers and he does like this, like to gesture. And that is so my dad. And I see that and I see my dad in my son. It is the most rewarding, emotional thing. And at the same time, I realize he is reflecting my family back to me as I am reflecting my family to him.
It's amazing.
And it is the most incredible thing because all of my family sees it. They see bits of themselves in my children. In their mannerisms, in their speech, in their construction of sentences, word choice, everything. It's like everything is a reflection of the way they have gelled into my family.
And that's so powerful because it shows you, they don't have to come from inside you, but they are part of you and they are you.
Absolutely. There's another thing Rayan does, I have to tell you. Noor not so much because she's not fully talking yet, but Rayan also does this funny thing which sometimes when I don't understand something, I'll go, huh? And he does that. He reflects that. He goes, huh? When he doesn't understand something, it's one of the most endearing things that I see between me and him. And sometimes we do it at the same time because we both stand and we'll be like,
oh, Aasma, it's so lovely. Thank you so much. Honestly, give me a love.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I hope this explanation inspires other extraordinary journeys.
Absolutely. Thank you, Aasma. Thank you.